Assalamu alaikum. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to the 16th edition of School of Tomorrow events, Guardians of the Future, Shaping Tomorrow with Generative AI. The non-profit SOT event series was launched by Beacon House in 2000 to engage global communities in conversations that shape the future of schools and societies. I would like to thank Google for Education and their partner Tech Valley, the lead sponsor for SOT 2023, and our titanium sponsor UBL. Other key sponsors include My Backpack, MK Books, Alyy Bank Limited, Habib Bank Limited, Wateen, and Interwood. We also thank our SOT supporters, including Paramount Books and Nestle Pure Life, who have contributed to this year's event. Moving on to our housekeeping instructions, please ensure your cell phones are silent. Please use the SOT app to scan the QR code for session Q&A and feedback. Share your thoughts on social media using the hashtags, that is hashtag Guardians of the Future and hashtag SOT 2023. If you need assistance, our ushers are here to help you. For questions, please use the flashcards provided by the ushers or the mobile app. The panel discussion will last for about 45 minutes, followed by 15 minutes for question and answer. Here, we take the opportunity and invite Ms. Sidra Iqbal as an interviewer for our next dialogue on the topic Cinematic Journey. Ms. Sidra Iqbal is an internationally acclaimed journalist and TV host. She produces Pakistan's leading daily news show, Aaj Pakistan with Sidra Iqbal, and successfully curates it too. She's a champion of public speaking, having won the ESU International Public Speaking Championship in London and received an award from His Royal Highness Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh. Ms. Sidra also serves as a youth advisor to the Ministry of Education in the UAE. She's contributed to UNESCO's study on inclusive knowledge societies and is a global fellow of Alyy Khan, focusing on internet governance, accountability, and transparency. Ms. Sidra, welcome aboard.
Thank you. Are you going to introduce my guest as well? Okay, I'm going to do the honors.
Yes, please. With you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to once again be a part of the School of Tomorrow 2026, or the 16th edition of the SOT events. We have with us someone who I really, really admire as an actor, not only for his diverse body of work, but also for the powerful characters that he's played, and the strong voice when it comes to the narrative building that he's rendered himself to. He's worked in Bollywood, he's worked in Hollywood, and of course, we have the honor of having him contribute to the Pakistani drama and cinematic experiences. So without any further ado, please put your hands together to welcome Alyy Khan. So this was mysteriously titled as The Cinematic Journey.
The Cinematic Journey.
Cinematic Journey. So Alyy, first and foremost, it's a pleasure to have you here. And I know that you're also moderating a conversation right after. And that one is going to be pretty intense. But let's begin with, you and I have had the opportunity to talk about some of the themes which come to mind when you approach the School of Tomorrow and the theme of Guardians of the Future as an actor. What's the first thing that comes to your mind that you would like to share with our audience today?
मेहनत के बगैर कुछ नहीं मिलता भाई और बहनों. सबसे कॉमन सवाल जो मुझसे पूछा जाता है, आवाज़ आ रही है? आवाज़ तो आ ही रही होगी. This is better.
Is it better to use this?
I think this is better, so I can sit back a little,
okay.
rather than lean forward. जी तो Guardians of the Future sounds like a very nice film actually. सबसे पहला सवाल जो मुझसे पूछा जाता है कि सर हम भी एक्टर बनना चाहते हैं, तो हमसे एक्टिंग हो जाएगी? तो मैं पूछता हूँ यार, अगर आप क्रिकेटर बनना चाहते हैं तो बचपन से क्रिकेट खेलते हैं ना आप, तो उसी तरह अगर आप एक्टर बनना चाहते हैं तो जाहिर सी बात है कि बचपन से आपने कुछ ना कुछ तो किया होगा. अनफॉर्चुनेटली आपके सवाल का जवाब मेरे पास ये है कि इस वक्त जो मैंने देखा है, क्योंकि सबके हाथों में सेल फोन होता है, बड़ा आसान होता है तस्वीरें बनाना और बड़ा आसान होता है वीडियो बनाना, और क्योंकि social influencers like we heard in the session in the morning, वो भी अपने आप में एक पेशा बन गया, and obviously it's a way of earning money. Everyone wants to become overnight stars, which is fine and which is all well and good, but that stardom, I think, doesn't really last very long, and that has a lot of mental ramifications, because एक बार आप शेर को खून चखा देते हैं तो फिर उसकी आदत बन जाती है. And then if those people cannot maintain that stardom or that popularity, तो आगे जाकर काफ़ी मसले मसाइल होते हैं, mental depression भी हो जाती है, और वो बहुत सारे साल they keep chasing their own tail, trying to recreate that high that they have faced. So the only way to sustain that, in my opinion, is to put in the hours and the hard work necessary for you to get there. So वो एक कहावत है कि आप ओवरनाइट सेंसेशन बनना चाहते हैं या लंबे रेस के घोड़े, तो मैं तो भैया 100 सेंचुरी मारना चाहता हूँ, इसलिए.
We are probably in a day and age जिसके बारे में कहते थे ना कि हर इंसान के पास 3 से 5 सेकंड की पॉपुलैरिटी ज़रूर होगी, and you will become that viral story. You have the opportunity to break it into the scene, and then it is up to you how to sustain it. We've seen a lot of people use the route that you're talking about, कि हाथ में अगर फ़ोन है तो कोई उन्होंने कंटेंट बनाया, वायरल हो गया, that automatically has become their audition. बिकॉज किसी प्रोड्यूसर ने, किसी चैनल ने ये गेज किया कि यार इस शख्स का इन्फ्लुएंस है, लोग इसको देखना चाहते हैं. When you compare your own journey with people who are taking that route, Ali, what comes to mind?
My journey has been very different जी. मैं मेहनत 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 हमेशा कहता रहता हूँ, क्योंकि मैंने ये एक्टिंग जो है प्रोफेशनली 9 साल की उम्र से शुरू की थी, तो बाकायदगी से मेरी एक उस्तानी थी, और क्योंकि मेरी परवरिश और रिहाइश बम्बई की थी, तो हीमा देवी जो मेरी गुरु थी, उनके साथ एक तरीके से हमने हमारी पढ़ाई मुकम्मल की. सो वी वर पार्ट ऑफ राडा. वी वुड डू एग्जाम्स थ्रू कॉरेस्पॉन्डेंस वेयर एग्जामिनर्स वुड कम once a year, and exactly like the Trinity College of Music, we had acting, and we would do all the 5 disciplines, which include voice modulation, sight reading, body language, etc., etc. तो it was a very educative process, और उम्र का तकाजा रखते हुए you were taught certain things at a certain age, which as an individual you could imbibe and incorporate as a work ethic. So that's been my formal training. Achha,
the interesting thing about this audience, because I understand there are lots and lots of faculty members and people who are affiliated with the Beacon House system one way or the other. हमारा एक annual concert होता है, and there is a lot of room and leeway for both the teachers and the students to come out and through play learn how to act, and it's all fun and games till you have the annual concert, and then there are deadlines that they need to meet. But when you look around the hall and when you tell people and you encourage them to become actors, you're also keeping in mind what an uphill challenge it can be. आपने खुद बताया कि बहुत उतार चढ़ाव भी तो आए होंगे. We always talk about the success. What failed? What were the heartbreaks in the journey, Ali?
Well, before I answer that question, I think what also needs to be put into perspective is कि बचपन में जब हम स्कूल में थिएटर सीखते हैं या थिएटर करते हैं, तो उसमें सिर्फ और सिर्फ एक एंगल नहीं लेना चाहिए. तो जाहिर सी बात है, कुछ बच्चे एक्टर बनना चाहते हैं, maybe lots of children want to become actors, लेकिन साथ में टेक्निकल माइंडेड बच्चे भी निकलते हैं. So you have children who are interested in lighting, for example, and they can go on and become great lighting directors. Or children who want to become choreographers and they start doing dance on stage. Yeah. Or children who are interested in costume design or set manufacture or set design. So like in cinema, even in theater, there are different facets to it. We only harp on acting as one facet, which sometimes may not be everyone's cup of tea, right, Sidra?
Right. So my question to you is heartbreaks. अपने कौन से किरदार को या किस काम को पीछे पलट के जब अली खुद देखते हैं तो आपको लगता है यार इसमें थोड़ी ओवर एक्टिंग ज़्यादा की थी?
ओवर एक्टिंग तो हर चीज़ में मैं ज़्यादा करता हूँ. उसी के तो पैसे मिलते हैं. पिछले पैनल डिस्कशन में जालिम सास और टॉक्सिक हस्बैंड नंबर 1. मैं क्या कह सकता हूँ?
Your better half is also in the audience, by the way.
Thankfully she's sitting there. तो घर पे जाके जूते नहीं मिलेंगे. लेकिन एक दिलचस्प किस्सा मैं आप लोगों को सुनाता हूँ. जब पाकिस्तान आया था तो मैं बेगम से कह रहा था कि यार सारी ज़िंदगी इंडिया में टेलीविज़न की ही कमाई है, टेलीविज़न की खाई है, तो मेरी कोशिश होगी कि टेलीविज़न मैं ना करूं, और टेलीविज़न कर कर के बोर हो गया हूँ. One of the main reasons of leaving Bombay for me was मैंने अपना करियर 1992 में टेलीविज़न में शुरू किया था, और सास बहू ड्रामे बहुत बनते थे. तो स्टार प्लस का जो मॉनिकर था, टैं टैं टैं, और these long drawn out dramas, उससे मैं थोड़ा सा परेशान हो गया था. And I wanted better writing, or I wanted writing that maybe my English theatrical upbringing could identify with more. It may have been a vain, elitist kind of thought, which today I'm a bit ashamed of, but that's how I kind of approached the work. So I thought maybe going to the West would be more interesting because I would get a chance to work on different writing.
And how did you then find your way to Pakistan?
And then, because I came here with Jagjit Singh Saab and Farida Khanum to do a show, that's where I met Chandni and fell in love, and then we got married. Because she was from here, we originally then thought of going back to Bombay, but there were some issues with going back to Bombay, so I decided to come to Pakistan. I was traveling from London to Bombay regularly. I thought Karachi to Bombay is so much closer. और फिर जो भी इख्तिलाफात हो गए, तो obviously that's not happening now. But that's how I found my way to Pakistan, and I didn't really want to do too much television work here. मेरी एक और drawback जो है, क्योंकि मेरी परवरिश हिंदुस्तान की है और बॉम्बे में है, बॉम्बे की है, तो जो मैं पढ़ता और लिखता हूँ वो जाहिर सी बात है देवनागरी है. तो मैं हिंदी पढ़ता हूँ और उर्दू मैं पढ़ नहीं पाता. तो एक तो वो एक एहसास कमतरी है. एक आई फील out of my element, especially when I'm around Urdu-speaking people, because for me it requires more of an effort and a lot of learning. और क्योंकि मैं स्क्रिप्ट पढ़ नहीं पाता, मैं हमेशा मोहताज होता हूँ असिस्टेंट्स पर या फेलो एक्टर्स पर to read the scene to me, to help me with the scene. अगर कोई स्क्रिप्ट रोमन में दे भी देता है इत्तेफाकन, तो क्योंकि कंपोजर्स एक्स्ट्रा पैसे लेते हैं उसको कंपोज करने के लिए, तो प्रोड्यूसर अपनी कंजूसी में मेरे लाइंस तो अंग्रेजी में कर देता है, लेकिन आगे पीछे उर्दू होती है. तो जब मैं वो पढ़ने की कोशिश करता हूँ, I don't really understand too much of it. So as a result, I thought I wouldn't do too much work here. But obviously, once the kids were growing up and living here, the dramas here, the content is so powerful that na chahte baby, I got drawn into it, and I feel completely blessed.
I think lucky for us to earn an actor like yourself in our fraternity. But Alyy, tell me something. When you said that you were not okay with the kind of dramas that were being produced over there, both in terms of the stories and the way they were treated. तो यहाँ पे जब आपने अदाकारी शुरू की और यहाँ के प्रोजेक्ट्स में शामिल हुए, आपने एक तो ड्रॉबैक की बात की कि आप उर्दू लिखना पढ़ना नहीं जानते. What else did you need to unlearn? Because life, जब हम future की बात कर रहे हैं, there'll be so many instances that what we learn in schools, probably by the time we'll be out in practical lives, you'll need to unlearn that. So you as an actor, how did you deal with that experience?
पहले तो पाकिस्तानी क्रिकेट टीम हार रही है, इसलिए हॉल इतना भरा हुआ है. बड़ी नवाजिश that so many people are sitting in. वो खामा बिजली जलाने का कोई फायदा तो है नहीं. Once that's out of the way, to answer your question, I think as an actor, sometimes we take ourselves a little too seriously. Really? At least that's what my approach was. And my philosophy in life pretty much was to try and attain perfection, which in hindsight is very arrogant for an individual. I think one should try and attain excellence as opposed to perfection, because perfection is rehearsed, it's not organic. And as an actor, one should not be acting but should be, if you understand what I'm trying to say. You just have to be in the moment and then let the body dictate what it should do. My earlier approach in life was to rehearse things to a T, whereas now I've decided to let things go and believe in yourself and try and be in the moment. So that is one of the primary things that I had to unlearn. And the second thing I had to unlearn was, kyunki my work ethic had been defined in an industry which is extremely professional, not just in terms of how the work is done, but also punctuality, also the hours you need to put in, the amount of time you need to be on your toes, working under pressure. हम मॉरिशस में शूट कर रहे थे और सुबह 7 बजे से लगे हुए थे, just to digress. और बड़ा लंबा दिन था, भारी कास्ट थी और सुबह से लगे हुए थे और सबको पता था कि शाम को मगरिब के वक्त जैसे ही सनसेट होगा हमारा पैकअप होगा. तो कैमरा इस तरफ था और द बीच वाज हियर और हम पानी में थे एंड वी वर डूइंग आवर लास्ट सीन और सुबह से सब लगे हुए थे एंड एवरीवन वाज हैप्पी, वी वर बर्न्ड और सनबर्न्ड एंड वगैरह वगैरह. और फिर लास्ट सीन आया और आई रिमेंबर कि एक वो राइटर हमारे साथ थे, तो जैसे आप सीन ख़त्म करते थे तो वो फ़ौरन एक नया सीन लिख कर भेज देते कि डे लाइट है, एक और करें, एक और करें, एक और चेपें. तो लास्ट सीन आ गया, सबने कहा सर लास्ट सीन, हाँ लास्ट सीन. और सडनली ऊपर से बारिश गिरने लगी ना हल्की हल्की, तो वो जो स्याह था, द इंक स्टार्टेड रनिंग ऑन द पेपर और 4 एक्टर घूम रहे, अरे मेरी लाइन मेरी लाइन मेरी लाइन. बहरहाल वो सीन करने के बाद जब हम मुड़ के सबने कहा कि यार पैकअप घर जाएं, अब बहुत हो गया, तो डायरेक्टर साहब ऐसे मुड़ के देखते हैं पीछे जहाँ सारे होटल्स थे और होटल्स बीच के जो कैफ़ेज़ थे उनकी लाइट सडनली ऑन होने लगी ना. तो डायरेक्टर कहता है असिस्टेंट से कि यार वो रात के 2 सीन्स थे, दोबारा आना पड़ेगा. तो असिस्टेंट ने कहा जी सर वो तो शेड्यूल था वैसे. तो एक्टर से ज़रा पूछें यार कि आधे घंटे का इनको ब्रेक देते हैं, अभी क्यों ना कर लें. तो वो हमारी स्टेमिना थी एंड ऑल ऑफ अस अग्रीड टू डू इट, राइट. सो कमिंग टू पाकिस्तान 12 साढ़े 12 बजे से पहले कैमरा रोल नहीं होता. लाइफ इज़ मच ईजियर. मुझे 12 घंटे के पैसे दिए जाते हैं मगर मुझसे 8 घंटे से ज़्यादा कभी काम करवाया नहीं है, क्योंकि गाड़ी टाइम पे नहीं आती. आप लोकेशन पर पहुँचें तो हमारी फ़ीमेल आर्टिस्ट जो हैं उन्हें ज़्यादा वक्त लगता है टू गेट मेड अप. So instead of them coming so many hours in advance.
अली आपको मैं वार्न कर दूं, ये क़यास सराई जब करते हैं ना फिर ये वाला क्लिप वायरल हो जाता है, फिर लोग अंदाजे लगाने शुरू कर देते हैं कि आपने किस किस एक्टर के साथ काम किया है और यहाँ आप किसकी चुगली कर रहे हैं.
मेरा नाम अली खान है, खालिद अनम नहीं.
फिर होता है कि आप किसकी
और
चुगली कर रहे थे.
खालिद साहब के साथ मैं पिछले हफ्ते लाहौर में था और यही किस्सा उन्होंने हम सबको दोहराया था और उस वक्त भी किसी का नाम नहीं लिया था. ब्लेस हिम.
But Ali, tell me something. Coming to some global themes, जो आप और मैं over the lunch we were talking about it. One of the themes for this event is an age of inclusion. How do we make sure that everyone becomes a part and there's like an equal playing ground given to everyone and the growth and the opportunities are equitable? As an actor, do you think that's a far-fetched dream?
No, not really. I mean, color blindness is fashionable, right? So you have colored actors playing lead parts. You have Dev Patel playing an Englishman. I got cast recently in an Agatha Christie show called Tommy and Tuppence, in which I was supposed to play a Major Williams or something. So my first question to my agent was, are you sure you sent me the right part to audition? I don't look like a Major Williams, dude. And he says, no, don't worry. If you win them over, they'll change your name. And true enough, Major Williams became Major Khan for the show. So the inclusivity, I think, not just in our business, but I think overall is a politically correct thing at the moment. Incidentally, my kid, my son, Ryan, mashallah, is in his A2 and in KGS in Karachi. And last year, the kids who were in A2 have all gone to university this year. So the head girl of grammar school, who's a hijaban, a girl called Ramla, has mashallah got 140% scholarship in a university in America. So there's all sorts of inclusivity as far as I'm concerned. My only concern is that whilst that inclusivity exists, the reason for me to go to the West, because I thought the writing would be better, is something that I am disappointed with. The writing is from a very white person's lens, which is something that upsets me.
Achha, I wanted to come to the content part a little later, but just you know, when you said that you scored a part and you are happy about the other actors who do so, we must remember that in terms of number, that's still far and apart, and you were extremely lucky. I'll give you a little tidbit. So Pillars Fund and the Fords Foundation, they conducted a survey. In 2018 to 2019, they looked at about 200 important popular television series across the 4 continents. And you'd be surprised to know that 87% of these 200 series did not have a Muslim character. And 1% of them out of the, you know, if you looked at, they made a list of all the characters who had speaking roles, so they counted it to be about 8,885. Only 1% was again Muslim. And the number was even deplorable if you come down to a Muslim girl or a Muslim woman. So how do you make sense of it? And how, I mean, does that make you pessimistic about the future? Does that make you think about that, okay, there's this whole arena that needs to turn around?
I think it's heartening that Muslims are finding their voice. I think Sharmeen Obaid Chinoy, taliyan please guys, taliyan, taliyan. I think Sharmeen has flown the flag very proudly and set the bar quite high for the rest of us to follow, mashallah. No woman has had the honor of being asked to direct a Star Wars film, and certainly not a Muslim woman. तो हमारे लिए और ख़ास तौर पे हमारे मुल्क की ये वाकई बहुत ही बड़ी फ़ख्र की बात है. Riz Ahmed, I don't know how many of you are familiar with this actor called Riz Ahmed. He's a London-based actor, a very bright guy. He studied in Oxford. So Riz has been a great advocate
in fact, the
for
fund
inclusivity.
that I'm talking about in the study was actually conducted by his organization.
There you go.
Yeah.
So Riz has been a great advocate for this, and he himself then went on record saying that I would like to be the first Muslim actor to win an Oscar. And him and I had just finished working on a film called Mogul Mowgli. I think this was just before the pandemic. And during the making of Mogul Mowgli, he was talking about a short film that he had co-written called A Long Story or A Long Goodbye or something like that, I think it was called, which he did with an Indian-British director called Alyy Khan. And the two of them actually went on to win the Oscar. So again, there is, I think, recognition for the Muslim voice. I think the adage that not all Muslims are terrorists, but unfortunately most terrorists are Muslims, although the Zionists are proving us wrong at the moment. I think that stigma still needs to be worked on a little, and we need to find voices from within our own countries as opposed to relying upon expats to actually speak up for us.
Alyy, do you self-censor when you're at an international stage? You've had experience of working in Hollywood. Right now, we see the trouble, the challenge for a lot of international celebrities and actors who've been advocating peace, who've been advocating tolerance and inclusivity and diversity, to be, you know, to be caught on the crossroads. They're unable to say a lot, and many suspect that it hurts them professionally. वो कह नहीं सकते, पाबंदियां हैं. आपका क्या एक्सपीरियंस है? क्या आपको अपने आप को कभी सेल्फ सेंसर करना पड़ा?
जी, मैं अनफॉर्चुनेटली बहुत ही मुंहफट टाइप ऑफ इंसान हूँ, इसलिए सेंसर खुद को करना थोड़ा सा मुश्किल होता है, लेकिन जैसे जैसे उम्र बढ़ती जाती है और जैसे जैसे और मैच्योरिटी आती है, I find that sometimes I need to put my own priorities on the back burner because of other responsibilities of family in life and stuff like that. But at the same time, when you wake up, you have to look at yourself in the mirror, and so you can't be disappointed with the reflection, right? So I guess it's a fine balance.
Have you ever said no to a project thinking कि यार, I'm saying no not because it's not a great project, it will give me a lot of exposure, but it's just wrong. I don't like the story. I think there is misrepresentation or trivializing any issue. किसी भी issue को हमारे अक्सर हम बात करते हैं mental health की. But usually आप देखें कि जिस शख्स का भी कोई challenge mental health wise चल रहा हो, या if they're on a spectrum of neurodiversity, they're made fun of. Sooner or later there'll be an instance in the story where they are actually the punchline of the joke. Have you ever said no to that?
Yeah, Ali Safina was talking about slapstick comedy. I think slapstick comedy is great. I think what Sir Charles Chaplin actually introduced audiences to was empathy through silence. Because if you see all of his work, there's a great poignancy within that slapstick. And so, while you were laughing at the character, you were actually laughing along with him. For me, I put my hand up and said, I get offered these horrible villainous roles. नहीं sir, आपकी आवाज, आप ये, आप वो, आपकी आंखें और आप गरजते हैं. और पहले तो यहाँ के जितने मर्द हैं पाकिस्तान में, वो आके मुझसे कॉम्प्लीमेंट इस तरह देते कि आपका गुस्सा हमें बड़ा अच्छा लगता है. ये भी क्या अच्छी बात है. So a lot of the times when I get offered similar types of characters, I'm a bit hesitant because as an actor, you only have that much to give. And so if you played similar characters, how can you give that narrative something fresh and new? Also, मैं उस हक में नहीं हूँ जहाँ हम विलेंस को ग्लोरीफाई करें. तो अब वो लाहौर में जिस बंदे ने बच्चों के साथ ज्यादती की, वो पार्ट मुझे ऑफर हुआ था, तो मैंने कहा यार ये फिल्म बनाने की क्या ज़रूरत क्या है. मतलब हमारे मुल्क में और कहानियाँ नहीं है. वैसे ही फिल्म इतनी मुश्किल से बनती है, इतने पैसे लगते हैं, इतना कोलैबोरेटिव एफर्ट है. अगर आप ये सब कर रहे हैं तो एक अच्छी कहानी बताएं ना, एक अपलिफ्टिंग कहानी, एक पॉजिटिव मैसेज दें.
मुझे लगता है अली, जिस तरह हम पॉलिटिक्स ऑफ फियर की बात करते हैं ना, कि नफरत फैलाकर लोग पावरफुल फील करते हैं, किसी एक खास तबके को मोबिलाइज कर देते हैं. आई थिंक देयर इज आल्सो सिनेमा ऑफ फियर, एंड दिस इज वेयर द होल बैटल ऑफ नैरेटिव कम्स थ्रू. हैज इट बीन डिफिकल्ट फॉर यू टू एवर चूज साइड्स?
Yeah, remember I've lived in India, right? So if I get offered a bad packy part,
you'll have to have a skull cap and some kajal, and you'll have to say adab to begin with.
Recently I did an interesting film with what's her name? Sridevi's elder daughter, Janhvi Kapoor. तो वो लंदन में शूट कर रहे थे और they made me the Indian ambassador. और ये बंदी इंडियन एम्बेसडर के लिए काम करती है, and she gets honey trapped by a man who has sex with her and videotapes it and starts to blackmail her to reveal state secrets. तो यह बॉम्बे से व्हाट्सएप पे कॉन्वर्सेशन चल रही है. तो मैं डायरेक्टर की बात सुन रहा हूँ, अच्छा आगे क्या होगा. तो वो बंदा पाकिस्तानी निकलता है. ऐसे क्या, मुझे माफ कर दे. नहीं सर, कहानी तो सुने. जी और भी है. अच्छा सुना भाई, आगे. तो कहता है कि वो बंदा पाकिस्तानी निकलता है और फिर इंडियन हाई कमीशन की स्टेट सीक्रेट्स रिवील करवा रहे हैं इस लड़की को ब्लैकमेल करके. ऐसे वो तो आपको बता दिया, आगे क्या होता है भाई, कुछ और भी है. जी सर डोंट वरी, वो एंड में पता चलता है कि डबल एजेंट है और एक इंडियन मिनिस्टर ने उसको हर्ट किया तो एक्चुअली इंडियन. ऐसे मैं फिल्म कर रहा हूँ भाई, मैं आ रहा हूँ फिर करने. तो I mean, at the end of the day, मेरे भी छोटे बच्चे हैं, इंशाल्लाह अगले साल वो भी यूनिवर्सिटी जाएंगे. आपको तो पता है कि रुपए ने डॉलर के हिसाब से कितना मार रहा है. तो at the end of the day, you also have to put bread on the table, So we're jobbing actors, right?
What about women? I mean, you just mentioned Janhvi. She comes from a very talented lineage of actors and producers and people who've been in the cinema. How do you think the women are being portrayed in cinema today, both in Pakistan and in India?
So I'm on a WhatsApp group with my school friends from Bombay. I went to school for Bombay Scottish, and the other day, a very learned friend of mine who's a doctor, जो बॉम्बे छोड़कर, पैसों की लालच छोड़कर, बॉम्बे से 5 घंटे दूर एक हिल स्टेशन है, लोनावला खंडाला के नाम से, महाबलेश्वर के नाम से. तो ये बंदा कुछ 200 किलोमीटर में 3 डॉक्टर्स हैं. ये उनमें से एक डॉक्टर है जो 50 रुपए अपने मरीज से लेता है, अगर वो मरीज 50 रुपए देने के लायक है. ये उस स्पिरिचुअल टाइप बनता है, पैशन की उसकी दिलचस्पी नहीं है. एक बार शादी हुई थी, डिवोर्स हो गया, कुछ नहीं, वो अकेला रह रहा है ऊपर अपने कुत्तों के साथ. उसने हमारे व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप पर एक सेक्सिस्ट जोक पोस्ट की है औरतों के बारे में। मैं जोक आप लोगों के सामने नहीं दोहराऊंगा, लेकिन ये इतना लंबा चौड़ा जो मैं कहने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ, वो the minute he posted that sexist joke which is against women या औरतों का थोड़ा सा मजाक उड़ाना, the reaction that the backlash that he received from the rest of the people from our group, of which we were all classmates, 5th standard से हम साथ हैं, अब हम सब 50 साल के ऊपर, तो लंबी दोस्ती है 30 साल की पहले से। The backlash that he has received against from each and every woman on the group and from every man on the group reflects the maturity of the Indian mind, in my opinion. And so, the modern India of today is very different from the India that's represented in the press, which also exists, which I'm not discounting. But the intelligent mind wants peace, harmony with their neighbors, respect for all religions, talking about secularism, spreading love. If Pakistan is playing in Bangalore or in Chennai, you saw the love the cricket team receives. जब चौका हमारे बंदा मारता है तो उतनी तालियां होती है as opposed to the opposing team. So it's all absolutely fair. That's exactly the way the model works in the West today. So with the advent of Me Too, big players like Apple and all the big OTT platforms have actually gone to the other extreme. I was shooting an Apple show. I'm sorry, I hope I'm not boring you guys, right? Well, I guess I am. तो ये एक बड़ा दिलचस्प किस्सा है सिद्रा, मैं आपको जल्दी से सुनाता हूँ। एक एप्पल शो कर रहे थे, एप्पल प्लस शो by the name of शांताराम. Shantaram became a very popular book a few years ago in India, written by an Australian author. तो हम सेट पर इसको फिल्मा रहे थे between Melbourne and Thailand, और शाम को प्रोडक्शन आपको सेलफोन्स देते हैं, तो प्रोडक्शन के सेलफोन पे कॉल आती है and this lady introduced herself, whatever her name was, and says that I'm an intimacy coach. So I said, okay. And she says that I believe you're shooting such and such scene tomorrow, and I needed to meet you before you shoot the scene. So I said, I will be on set from the morning, you come to my trailer. So she said, yeah, fine, no problem. Anyway, दिन शुरू हुआ, ये बात मेरी ज़हन से निकल गई थी, we were on set, और हम रिहर्स कर रहे थे, and basically it was a scene between me and the boy who's playing my son. और क्योंकि मैं उसे कुछ समझा रहा था, वो उसके माँ बाप मर गए थे and I had adopted him, और मैं उसको तसल्ली दे रहा हूँ और उसको कुछ समझा रहा था, so I would reach out to touch him. And while we are rehearsing this, cameraman भी वहाँ खड़ा है और director भी वहाँ खड़ा है. Everyone is in their creative element and figuring out कि ये यहाँ से ये वहाँ से लाइट यहाँ पड़ेगी, angles ये होंगे. Suddenly ये खातून आ जाती है बीच में और काम रोक देती है और excuse me, तो सब बोलकर देखते हैं और पहली बार और सेट पर आई तो उसको आगे जी, she says, I spoke to you last night, Mr. Khan, I'm the intimacy coach. So everyone is looking at me. So I said, yeah, मैंने कुछ नहीं किया था, नहीं कर रही. So I said, जी. So she says, remember I said that I need to speak to you. So I said, yeah. So I'm looking at the director and the first, right? I'm saying, guys, I mean, is she allowed to interrupt this rehearsal session? And so they're looking at the producer. Because now no one is familiar with what an intimacy coach is supposed to do, right? So we had to stop working, and all of a sudden the boss for that moment became this intimacy coach. And this intimacy coach, and I've worked for 35 years, I've never come across one before, this intimacy coach now starts asking the actors, me and this little boy, about touching and feeling.
Good touch and bad touch, what you're okay with and what you're not okay with.
And what's a safe touch and what's a safe, so obviously because this is something that I hadn't encountered before, and I consider myself a spontaneous actor, I said, okay, so you want me to ask this child if it's okay for me as his father to touch him? So she said yes. That's exactly what I want you to do. So I looked at this kid and I said, is it okay with you if I touch you? So he's looking at me and now we played father and son for the last 15 days, so we're really familiar with saying, so I patted him on his shoulder. No, 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 no. I said, yeah, you didn't ask him if you could touch him. I said, but I just asked him. So she said, and then you need to ask him if you can touch him somewhere else. So I said, I don't know if I'm going to touch him. So I said, अच्छा आप एक काम करें, boss, is it okay if I touch you anywhere? एक carte blanche permission लूँ आपसे, ताकि आप भी खुश. So it's to that extent that not just a woman's, every person is made to feel that safe and secure on a set in today's world, and that happens in the West, and it's definitely happening in India.
Sometimes I felt it was like a knee-jerk reaction. There's so many actors जो पहले चाइल्ड स्टार के तौर पे आए हॉलीवुड में भी बॉलीवुड में भी और उनसे बाद में जब उनके एक्सपीरियंस के बारे में पूछा गया तो उन्होंने कहा we were so young we had no idea what was happening and some of the touch some of the scenes that they had done they were not comfortable with it. तो आपको कभी-कभी लगता है कि हम जो अच्छी चीजें भी कर रहे होते हैं वो हम नी जर्क में करते हैं हम कहीं ना कहीं मुझे लगता है इसका एक रीजन why now we have intimacy coaches is because big production companies don't want a lawsuit at their hand. What do you say?
Absolutely, you hit it on the head. In fact, for this Apple show, बस्ती दिखा रहे थे. बस्ती में कोई कचरा नहीं था जमीन पर. बस्ती में किसी को सिगरेट पीने की इजाजत नहीं थी. बस्ती में किसी को गाली देने की इजाजत नहीं थी. तो मैंने बोला ये कौन से बॉम्बे का बस्ती है भाई? कहाँ रह रहे हैं हम? लेकिन वो एप्पल का बस्ती था.
अली मुझे बताएं कि मूविंग फॉरवर्ड पहले तो आपने अभी क्रिकेट मैच का जिक्र किया और आपने कहा कि हॉल भरा हुआ है. जब पाकिस्तान इंडिया का मैच होता है तो आपका क्या हाल होता है?
जब मैं इंडिया में होता हूँ तो पाकिस्तान का टी शर्ट पहनता हूँ, तालियां बजा देते हैं. और पिछले हफ्ते मैं अपने कजिन्स के साथ लाहौर में मैं उन्हीं को ढूंढ रहा था, शायद वो दूसरी सेशन कर रहे हैं. पिछले हफ्ते जब इंडिया पाकिस्तान, अच्छा ये रही बेचारी आयशा बैठी है, तो इन्हीं के घर गया था अपना इंडिया टी शर्ट पहनकर, जब इंडिया और पाकिस्तान. और अनफॉर्चुनेटली वो तो कोई मैच ही नहीं था, तो मजा ही नहीं आया. क्या करें, इस पे भी ताली बजा.
Ali, when you look at the situation around us, it was very unfortunate that even during this World Cup, the ICC World Cup, there was apparently a lawsuit filed in India saying that Pakistani actors को वहाँ काम नहीं करना चाहिए, बल्कि पाकिस्तान के किसी भी talent को वहाँ काम नहीं करना चाहिए. And yet, when I see you and when you talk, you're open-hearted, you're open-minded, and you represent modern, liberal, secular India that wants peace with neighbors. How did the two realities come together? क्योंकि आपने कहा वो भी हकीकत है, ये भी हकीकत है. तो आगे आपको नजर आता है कोई फ्यूचर है? फवाद खान, माहिरा, who have millions of fans in India, will they be able to work there?
Inshallah, I have full faith that everything will come back to normal. अब देखिए ना, रमीज राजा और वकास यूनिस कमेंट्री कर ही रहे हैं इसमें. तो अगर वो लोगों को एंटरटेन कर रहे हैं तो हम क्यों नहीं जा सकते?
And you think they'll be keen, and what kind of characters will they get? कभी-कभार ऐसा भी तो होता है ना कि बेचारा दिल बड़ी मुश्किल में पड़ जाता है, फिल्माया सब जाता है लेकिन पर्दे पे कुछ नहीं आता.
That's not something that's in the actor's hand, right? I mean, you've got to do your work to the best of your abilities. उसके बाद एडिट में क्या रह जाता है? आप सलमान खान के साथ सीन कर रहे हो और सलमान खान को आप ओवरशैडो करते हैं, और गलती से अगर सलमान ने एडिट देख लिया तो आप कहाँ रहेंगे फिल्म में? क्यों रहेंगे भाई?
Those are the realities of the business. उसके साथ आप करते हैं.
That's with every big star, right?
मुझे एक बताएं कि while there's a lot of interest that Pakistanis have with the Indian cinema as well, there's another debate we see, and since we were talking about inclusion, nepotism. What's your take on that?
I think it's a really harsh word. I've just done a film which is releasing on the 7th of December on Netflix Global. It's an Indian product. I think the audience here is... No, that was a web series that's already released. This is a film. How many of you guys actually read the Archie comics as younger people? People are familiar with the Archie.
I think something Riverdale related is coming.
It's not Riverdale related. We filmed the Archies as a feature. And we've done it as an Anglo-Indian film because हमने characters के name वही रखे हैं. There's Archie, Betty, Veronica, Mr. Lodge, the whole gang. And Zoya Akhtar, who's a very well renowned filmmaker who's done sensitive work, um, who's a very liberal person, half Muslim, half Parsi, living in India all her life, and having to juggle people's prejudices as well. She's directed it and written it with Vima. So she meritoriously decided to use a fresh new cast for the Archies. And she then looked at a whole bunch of people. और obviously जब कोई भी नया प्रोजेक्ट बनाने की कोशिश करता है तो इरादे सबके बुलंद होते हैं और कोशिश करते हैं कि try and cast it to the best of its ability. So she found Shah Rukh Khan's daughter Suhana and Bachchan Saab's grandson Agastya, who were both studying film in New York. And when they came for their Christmas holidays, Zoya already had the script, so she asked Shweta and Gauri if she could audition their kids. Not cast their kids, but audition their kids. And then because they were already film students, Jaya Bachchan ji told Agastya, यार तू पागल तो नहीं हो गया, मतलब कहाँ से एक्टर बन जाएगा, अपनी पढ़ाई में लगता था, think of the family, etc., etc. But Zoya was pretty impressed with these two kids. And then for the part of Betty, she found Sridevi's younger daughter, Khushi, Janvi's kid sister. So once these principal characters got cast, और क्योंकि फिल्म ensemble है, कहने को तो ये principal characters हैं आची, बेटी, वेरोनिका, मगर narrative सारे बच्चों में, there's Jughead, there's Ethel, there's all the other characters from the film. So the narrative is spread evenly between everyone, but it got the moniker of nepotism. Now, because of her Muslim background and because of Gully Boy, which is also a Muslim angle film, Zoya started getting a lot of hate press and getting trolled online for then subscribing to nepotism. But at the same time, a Suraj Barjatia film got released with, I think, one of the Barjatia kids and another girl from a filmy family, maybe Shakti Kapoor's daughter. I forget what project it was, which was equally as much nepotism as this one is. And that went under the radar and no one said anything about it. So I guess people who want to propagate hate will. But all I can say is that having been a part of the Archies and having watched these kids work, before they came in front of the camera, Sidra, for 1 year, which is why I say mehnat, 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 एक साल के लिए Zoya Akhtar ने इनको training दी है, where they came in shorts and t-shirt in a closed private space, feeling safe as houses, and that's where they perfected their art before being brought onto set. Right? So, at the end of the day, Shah Rukh Khan this year has given 2 major hits. Inshallah, Donkey, which is releasing soon, will also lift the Bollywood market. Imagine the pressure Suhana must have. So it's not easy being judged by so many people in the world, क्योंकि हमारे लिए as an audience तो बड़ा आसान है ना कि ये यार बाप की तो बेटी है लेकिन वहाँ ये खतरा टैलेंट नहीं है, अरे छोड़ा, हमारे लिए तो बड़ा आसान है कहना, लेकिन उस बच्चे की तो जिंदगी की बात है ना.
एक आखिरी सवाल, Alyy, before we also open the floor for other people's questions, and I'm sure you guys are aware of the drill. आप ऐप पे जाके अपना सवाल भेज सकते हैं, also give feedback for the session. Alyy, when it comes to storytelling, we all, I think as filmmakers, as producers, as actors, we all try to push the boundaries, right? And even the subjects which are right now, you see them in the narratives or the stories or the nuances could not have been discussed पहले. अभी आपने मायरी का जिक्र सुना इसी फ्लोर पे, कई और ऐसे ड्रामे हमारे यहाँ भी बन रहे हैं which are edgy, which are frictional. व्यूअर डिस्क्रेशन के बारे में क्या कहेंगे, और ख़ास तौर पे इन कंट्रीज़ लाइक इंडिया एंड पाकिस्तान, जो कि अगर मासेस के लिए देखा जाए, वास्ट मेजॉरिटी के लिए देखा जाए, सिंगल टेलीविजन हाउस होल्ड्स होते हैं. व्हेन दीज एजी सब्जेक्ट्स आर कमिंग इनटू द स्टोरीज, इज इट हेल्पिंग अस, इज इट वीविंग अस टुगेदर, is it lifting the veil on subjects which have been put in the shadow and dark for too long? Is it a good thing, or do you think it's a complex subject?
I haven't understood your question. What is a complex subject?
It could be. I mean, for example, Mayri talks about the child marriage, and there is a certain lens that people have. It's an underage girl who gets married, then gets pregnant, has a child, And as the story matures and the characters mature, eventually by the end of it, they show this character to continue with her higher education, but also the two characters decided that they're not compatible and they opt for divorce. So there was a huge hue and cry. People said that, okay, you're trying to show life and the family systems in bad light. So what if they had gotten married at a young age? The expected conclusion that people would have wanted it, okay, stay together, make it work. So things like that, it gets a reaction.
I personally think there's a serious amount of hypocrisy in our society, right? आजकल के बच्चे बहुत ज़्यादा तेज हैं. I was in Lahore doing a lecture at the University of Management Technology 10 days ago, and having spoken to a lot of the kids, I actually find that, for example, the usage of drugs in our country, for example, the amount of alcohol that's consumed at children's schools parties, how easy it is to access pornographic content in this country through the help of a VPN. So no kid is a kid anymore. Once you give that kid freedom of having the internet in their hand, their growing up is overnight, right? Now, it depends on how liberal the parents are and how much they actually want to share with their children and how open-minded their party is for them to be able to sit and watch a mature scene. अभी किसी ने काजोल के प्ले की बात की, ये बड़ा दिलचस्प है. जब प्ले शुरू हुआ था तो मैं फैमिली के साथ थाईलैंड में हॉलिडे कर रहा था और फौरन मुहर्रम शुरू हो गया था. तो मैंने बेगम से कहा कि यार इसको अभी नहीं देखेंगे, आशूरे के बाद शुरू करते हैं. तो फिर जब हम वापस कराची आए, eventually आशूरे के बाद I put the play on. I didn't go to India for the release of it. I said काम कर लिया, अच्छा होगा तो तारीफ मिल जाएगी, बुरा होगा तो इज्जत बच जाएगी, वहाँ जाने की जरूरत नहीं. Anyway, आशूरे के बाद हमने देखना शुरू किया तो शाम को हम बैठे थे चारों और मेरी बेटी सोफे पे लेटी थी, बेगम मेरे साथ बैठी थी और टीवी देख रहे थे. और आखिरी close to the end episodes or whatever, I have this kiss with Kajol. So we're watching the TV like this and the kiss came and went, and all of a sudden I look around and my daughter's looking at me and there was not even the slightest bit of embarrassment or any question.
Were you embarrassed, honestly?
And I wasn't embarrassed. I started laughing. My wife was sitting there. We had discussed this, and
embarrassed is a hard word.
Which is what Ali Safina said when he walked in. That
but did you feel awkward? Is my question.
Watching it with the kid? No, not at all. Because that's what I do for a livelihood, so I can't be embarrassed or make excuses about it, right? In fact, my children are so good and so well trained now, alhamdulillah, कि जब मुझे स्क्रिप्ट आती है from my agents in the West, तो audition मैं कैसे करता हूँ? अगर उसमें I'm playing the scene with a woman, तो या तो बेगम वो औरत बन जाती है या बेटी. If it's a man, फिर मेरा बेटा वो cues देता है and one of my kids will then shoot it. So everyone is now trained and they know again that I strive for excellence. तो एक बार take करके मैं छोड़ता नहीं until I don't feel I've given it my best. We shoot it over and over and over again. It was very difficult for the family to understand this at first, but now they've understood.
So your process, as a lot of actors would call it, actually brings you closer to your family because they all feel included. They're a part of it. It's a great way to vet the projects as well, to vet the scripts as well. Achha, inka kya reaction aa raha hai? Maybe they could give you some very valuable input there. But a lot of families would think very differently. And when you are actually selecting a project, are you looking at how people will react or how family will react or how you will react? That probably would be my final question to you.
Yeah, I was offered a part which Bushra Ansari wrote. Play का नाम था पाकीज़ा. और बुशरा अंसारी और उस वक्त उनके जो खान थे इमरान अंसारी, शायद उनके बीच में कोई मसले चल रहे थे. She wrote the Imran Ansari character. He was vicious. वो मेज से खाना उठा के जमीन पे फेंकना, ऐसे बुशरा भाई किसने सबका पता है यार, कौन करता है ऐसे? नहीं जी मैंने इस तरह लिखा है, ऐसे ही होगा ये. तो फिर मैं घर आया और मैंने बेगम से बात की. मैंने कहा यार ये इस टाइप का कैरेक्टर है और अगर करूँगा तो बहुत अच्छा, लेकिन डर लग रहा है करने में, शाम को वापस घर भी तो आना है. So obviously आप जब कैरेक्टर करते हैं, आप करने की कोशिश करते हैं, तो मशीन तो है नहीं कि वही काम आप सेट पर छोड़ दें. तो कभी कभार डर लगता है कि अगर उसी मूड में आप कहीं घर आ गए तो फिर क्या होता है। और बेगम तो बेचारी, बेगम को तो कभी कभार मियाँ बुली कर लेता है, लेकिन बच्चों को नहीं कर सकते।
Like, you know what? I can relate to what you just said because my father is a TV media man as well. He's been in the field for the last 50 years as a producer and as a director. He always says one thing, and probably you could borrow that. He's like, Allah Ta'ala ne Alhamdulillah घर के बाहर बहुत इज्जत दी है। So ये घर के लोग जो होते हैं, ये आपको grounded रखने के लिए होते हैं। But Alyy, it was a pleasure speaking to you, and I think we covered a lot of ground, both on personal fronts and to understand how you think and how a talented actor, such an accomplished actor like yourself, is viewing the business and the trends moving forward. So thank you very much for that.
My pleasure, thank you.
अच्छा जी, आपके लिए सवालात बहुत सारे शॉर्टलिस्ट करके एक किया, इसके लिए कोई जल्दी चली होगी और एक इसको सेलेक्ट किया गया। You just mentioned शाहरुख खान had 2 movies back-to-back hits. हमने नेटफ्लिक्स पे कल परसों जवान देखी, उनसे भी पूछा गया क्या चाहिए, उन्होंने कहा चाहिए तो आलिया भट्ट, लेकिन शायद वो बहुत यंग है। आपसे भी कुछ उसी किस्म का सवाल है, आपसे पूछा जा रहा है, if you were to be cast as a hero in Bollywood, who would you want to play the hero in lead with?
Well, at this age, I think I'm not going to get cast as a hero, लेकिन अगर कोई इतना बेवकूफ है तो maybe someone like Tabu.
That was super powerful, like a powerhouse of acting. अच्छा जी, अक्सर कहा जाता है when books are turned into movies, they seldom do justice. But if you were to still pick a story, a book, which one would it be, and which character would you like to play out of that story?
So last year I met a gentleman, a very old doddering gentleman who was at my in-laws' house, and he phoned me and said, "Son, you know I'm a writer." And I said, "No, sir, I have no idea." So he sent me his book, and बहुत अच्छी कहानी है, पाकिस्तानी कहानी है, पाकिस्तानी लिटरेचर है, बहुत खूबसूरत सिंपल सी कहानी है और विजुअली बहुत डायनामिक होगी। तो मैंने उनसे वादा किया था कि आई विल ट्राई एंड मेक दैट इनटू अ फीचर फिल्म। अनफॉर्चुनेटली जो साहब थे वो उस वक्त 89 इयर्स के थे और ही मेट द फेटल एक्सीडेंट, फौत हो गए। लेकिन पूरी उम्मीद है कि आइदर दिस विंटर और अर्ली नेक्स्ट ईयर इन द विंटर I'd like to actually make it. It's a book called The Lady of Sohan Bela, and it's quite a good read.
And what pulls you towards that story?
It's secular vibe. It's Hindu, Muslim, and everything that the Kayat stood for.
That's super cool. Next question. If you were a writer, which topic would you want to highlight? Which of our anomalies, various shades of Pakistan, would you want to highlight in the story?
The fact that we're a Muslim nation but we don't understand Islam.
Care to elaborate, or do you think this is where you'd like to stop?
I think we should end this right now.
Thank you, Alyy. It was a pleasure speaking to you, I believe. Oh, we have one more question for you. In the show Archie's, how was it working with the daughter of Shah Rukh Khan, Suhana, you mentioned?
It was weird because I worked with Shah Rukh, I worked with his lady love Kajol, and all of a sudden I was then dad to his daughter. So it was interesting.
I think that would be the final question. Do we have more? All right. Thank you very much, Alyy. It was an absolute pleasure, and I believe that you have a session right after.
Thank you for your patience, guys. Thank you. Pakistan Zindabad.